Hey everybody, Anish here, career coach to the fiercely ambitious. Back at you today with an important video. Those of you who've watched some of my other videos, you may already know this. To those of you who are watching for the first time, allow me to just tell you something very important, okay? I cannot stand it when I see employers play BS mind games or engage in any kind of manipulation or underhanded tactics or not so underhanded tactics to give themselves an unfair advantage in the hiring process. Now, you might say, well, Anish, just to play devil's advocate, that's their right. They're the ones who are paying the salary. They're the ones who are creating the role. They get to say whatever it's going to be. But here's the funny thing, okay? A, they don't have to do that because actually playing the game fairly nets higher quality people, creates higher quality cultures, and nets higher outcomes. But even if that wasn't the case, right, the other part of this is all of those tactics aren't resulting in better hires. Retention is not going up. People now feel like if they're not moving to a new job every 2-3 years, they're losing out. And all manner of shenanigans are now in play because why? They engage in games that are unfair. And so we as individuals have to reciprocate by doing something else in return, right? And round and round and round and round and round it goes, right? And that whole mess. So I don't want you to be a victim of that. And yes, there are some places where they're just so toxic that and so one-handed that you're like, oh my God, I'm just getting out of this nightmare. And you should walk away in those situations. But there's still a rarity. In most cases, companies take as much of the rope as you're willing to get or to give them or willing to sort of lay out. And so part of keeping yourself protected, part of keeping yourself safe, empowered, and most likely to get the outcomes that you want is to realize some of the ways in which they might be playing games or might be taking more of the rope than they should be. And in those cases, setting yourself up for success and setting the right countermeasures in place so that that becomes less of a problem, or in most cases gets completely eliminated. So let's talk about, and I'm going to take a sip of my drink here, my plant drink here, to just go through three of the big things that they're trying to get you to forget, okay? So here's the first one. The three big things that every employer would wish that you just completely forgot, okay? Number one, every single thing is a negotiation. In hiring, and let me just repeat this. In hiring, every single thing is a negotiation. Not just the offer. I'm talking what questions you answer, where the conversation goes, how many interviews it takes, how much back and forth is required, even things like how intensively your resume gets reviewed. All of that is completely up for grabs and can and should be at least partially negotiated by you through the process. Otherwise, you're giving up too much power. So let me explain, okay? They'll call you up. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, are you available right now? I just want to have a couple. I just have a couple of questions for you. And thereby goes an hour plus of your time. Your kid is basically crying or looking for help, or some other thing is getting inconvenienced. But hey, this is a call from a recruiter, employer, hiring manager, whatever. I've got to answer. I've got to make myself available. Making yourself available is a priority when you're working at a company and expectations are clear. You're not working for these people. You're a free agent. You're like LeBron James in between seasons. You don't just get to pick up the phone and have a chat. I would strongly recommend, if you're in the midst of a job search or you're thinking of ramping one up, wherever you are, strongly, strongly, strongly recommend, before you heavily do it, open up your calendar. Block out specific times on specific days that are your call days. These are going to be days where the main priority is going to be filling up those slots with calls. And then regardless of how someone contacts you, email, phone, whatever, blocking them in. Great. I'd love to talk to you. Okay, I've got two questions. First of all, does tomorrow at 10:30 work? Don't take the bait. Let people feel as awkward as they want. This is your career. This is your livelihood. This is your ability to provide for your family, provide for your loved ones. Take it seriously. And any serious person who isn't already trying to take advantage of you will have no problem with that. Wednesday, okay, fine, sure. So what are the two questions? Okay, what are we going to be talking about? Like, what would be the main areas of focus that I should be thinking about here? And any initial details that you can provide right now on what the inspiring action is here behind this role. Like, what's the big pain based on what you know, what you've seen of it. What has your takeaway been? And you'll get some information there, right? Maybe it's basically blowing you off. Maybe it's more detailed, in which case you're quickly jotting this stuff down because you can use that, right? Whatever that is, ask a couple of questions and schedule it, okay? It's a big way to avoid that trap of being sort of taken advantage of by a one-sided process, okay? So remember that. Everything's a negotiation. Number two, your brand plays an enormous role in the value with which you're perceived. You could have two people. One person, senior project manager, I can do X, Y, and Z. I have an experience in company A, B, C, and D. Great. I've done this. This is my work history. Great. Here's another person, trusted partner to business leaders who works hand in hand with them in revising their product and program operations towards the future, better playing to our strengths, and resolving critical gaps in ops, strategy, analytics, whatever. Same people in terms of qualifications. Same people in terms of background. One person, though, has taken the reins and owns the high ground of what they can do. There is absolutely no way for me to overexpress how big of a jump we're talking about here. You want to make 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 grand more? You want to actually instantaneously jump up in terms of seniority? The brand must be an important part of that. The brand must be suited for what you are. Wear the clothes of the man or the woman that you are aspiring to be in every way, shape, and form, and make sure that your brand embodies that to its core. A great starting point is to look at not competitors of yours today, people that are 1 to 2 steps above, and borrow their branding strategies. What are you seeing of them on LinkedIn? How are their profiles structured? What details do they have in their experience? What keywords do they have? These are all things that you can draw from, okay? So that's the second one. Your brand plays an enormous amount of a role in how you're perceived, okay? So definitely make sure your brand is on point, because every employer would rather see a personalityless, generic recounting of what you can do. That helps them. It commoditizes you. It does not help you. Okay? The more individualized and high level you get through owning the higher ground, the more impossible it becomes to compare you with anybody else. That's your high ground. That's where you make the big money. That's where you have the big impact. Okay? Number 3. Okay? They are in trouble. It's the most easily ignored part in this. They're not hiring just to hire. No one would ever do that. No one would ever pay $1. The reason they're looking to hire for a role, fill an opportunity, have a discussion with you because you seem like an expert in X. It is not just to get to know you. It is not an ego trip. They are having serious pain. Mission number 1 for you in every single engagement you have should be to better find out what is that pain? What are all the manifestations of that pain? And position yourself as the best person who can solve that immediately. You do that, there is no one else like you. You combine these 3, there is no one else like you, okay? If you got value out of this, your next stop should be helloanish.com, HELLOANISH.com. You'll have access to my exclusive masterclass on how to land your dream job during disruptive times. You'll have some of the best of videos that I've ever put together that have really been the most beneficial for people who are ambitious about changing their lives. And just remember, screw the pandemic. That should have 0 impact on where you go. And just so you know, success stories are happening over and over and over and over again every single day, right in the midst of this terrible time, quote unquote. Why can't you be one of them? HelloAnish.com is where you should go. If you got value out of this, follow me.